been a wee while since you've been on the show. You've always got a lot to say. You've always been a great guest, but I know you've been very, very busy this year, and really pleased to have you back on.
Thank you very much.
Looks a very cozy little room you've got going on.
Yes, it's very festive
very
in the household.
festive.
Very festive indeed. Well, it's been a busy year, Alistair. You know, first official year being a dad. So obviously I've been doing all that. You know, I've been just enjoying every minute, I suppose. But you know, if we're rounding up Scottish politics for the year, a Christmas roundup, then I suppose we'll start at the start of the year, where, you know, I wouldn't say I broke the story on the consumption rooms, but I certainly took it to the next level. Hi to all the people in the comments. Like Alistair said, if you've got any questions, just dump them in the comments and we'll get to them towards the end. But I've uploaded up a couple of pictures of the consumption rooms just to sort of reimagine what I put myself through during the month of February. So, you know, all of these images here, right? And again, if you don't know this whole story about the consumption room was this concept that was, dreamed up in the minds of these social engineers and the SNP and the Greens to somehow to stop the addiction crisis. What we need to do is make sure that they've got plenty of drugs to take and a place to take them in a safe manner in order to reduce deaths. So, you know, the headline figures of the drug deaths is basically what the SNP go on year after year. And to see any progress being done, they need to see the numbers come down. So for a number of initiatives, the first one that come along the pipeline was something called naloxone, which was it stops an overdose. So it's like an anti-overdose syringe. So you see a lot of people carrying naloxone these days. But look at this image here. This is just off the east end of Glasgow. This is near Celtic Park.
So this is in a public way, as it were.
Yes, this is just behind the train station. I forget what the train station's name is. But again, I just wanted to sort of capsulate the ruination that's happening on people's streets. And this was after the drug consumption room videos, where I was like a dog with a bone, where I couldn't really get it out of my head. There was so much needles, there was so much discarded paraphernalia. There's it's like a feast for the eyes at these sites, and you can't really sleep that night when you come back and you're like, what the hell did I just clean up? And,
okay, I think we've seen enough of that picture.
I know this is just after I think an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, a needle cleanup in a very urban area right next to a train station. And I'm sorry to disturb your viewers and just showing them needles straight away, but this was the start of the year.
Yeah,
and of course, we had Neil Gray in the Parliament. You know, he references the videos that I make. Does they mention me at all? Says it's all misinformation, it's all lies. But I think looking back at it, it's because I've mentioned the fact that there's been a drug treatment centre situated in the same place as the consumption room. So this drug replacement therapy centre, or whatever it is, right next to the consumption room. All the addicts will show up in the morning because they're going to get a needle primed with medical grade heroin, which they'll take, and then be released into the public in some sort of weird ceremony where, you know, it's supposed to help the addict in some way, giving them heroin, medical grade heroin, and then just release them into the public, where, of course, they are then seeking the next hit. So I I mean, the area in the East End, right next to the Barrowlands, right next to a very busy Morrison's. The Morrison's have got extra staff on, extra security staff. They've got, eyes in the back of their head in terms of staff. They're all waiting for, one of these addicts to run in, steal a few bottles of vodka, and dash back out again. And I've seen a very similar situation happen over Edinburgh. I've spent a lot of time in Edinburgh the last few weeks. And anyone that knows Edinburgh will know the main tourist centres. You've got Waverley, and then you come up Waverley Steps, and then or the back end of Waverley, you go up Coburn Street, you're at the sort of middle of the Royal Mile. Across the road, you've got a place called Hunter Square. And at Hunter Square, I've been talking to all the businesses around Hunter Square. Hunter Square is like a sort of, it's like a meetup ground. It's like a communal addiction space right in the very centre of Edinburgh, right across from all these businesses, all these hotels, all these tourist attractions. We've got, in amongst it all, a huge group of addicts who are just terrorising the businesses up and down in the general vicinity of Hunter Square. The Greg's, I'm told, or the Greg's on North Bridge, right off Hunter Square, is one of the most shoplifted Greg's in the UK, that runs, what I'm told, anywhere between £200 and £300 in losses per day. Per day, Alistair. The amount of sandwiches to equate to £200 or £300 every day is quite staggering. So, I still do a lot of work in the space. When I see problems, generally I like to investigate, to talk to the business owners, to find out what's going on, and to seek possible solutions. Hunter Square, for a lot of people in Edinburgh, it's just one of these things that they just accept as a normal thing. They accept that, oh, yeah, this is where the addicts go, just avoid it. Whereas I'm looking for a situation where the businesses don't have to put up extra security guards. They don't have to, chase people out the shop. They don't have to guard their goods like they're going to be stolen any minute.
Yes. So, looking back on your activism, because you did publicize it a lot, and the good news, I suppose, is that they did attempt to clear that up, didn't they? And it certainly brought it to the public eye, because it was all over social media, and it also got into the papers as well, I believe. So you definitely brought it to the attention of the public. Would you say it was a successful?
I thought it was fantastically successful. At any time it's been mentioned in Parliament, absolutely knocked it out the park. So that's a home run for me. Even though I didn't get my name in there, that's no to my detriment. Everyone knows where the video came from. And everyone knows that Neil Gray is, for lack of a better term, talking shite about the whole situation. So, and the more I find out about Neil Gray, the worse it is. Neil Gray, the current health secretary. But, I've been keeping my ear to the ground in Scottish politics. Although it has been a busy year with me becoming a dad, I've just, I can't shake the need to make things better for people, unfortunately. This country, and again, it's maybe because I became a dad, that's what I'm looking for all the time. I'm looking for the country to be in a better place than it is right now. And when I eventually depart this earth, I hope it's way better for my family when I go. That's just my sort of the mission at the moment. I think it's just to leave it better than it is before. They say that, what is it? You plant a tree knowing that you're not going to sit under its shade, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. That's right. For future generations. Well, that's a good attitude to have. Absolutely. Absolutely. The kind of eternal view of things is important, because we're all just passing through, talking about things that are just passing through. The SNP is probably, well, we'll know much better next year, but it could be on the verge of losing quite a few seats, or it could be gaining seats. I mean, we really don't know. But I suppose the big news story, certainly Britain-wide, was the rise of reform this year. Exponential rise. Last year it was, oh, look at us, we're now fourth in the polls. Look at us, we're third in the polls. Now, in some polls, they're number one.
Second. Yeah, well, at least
Scotland,
second.
in Scotland, they're number two. So that's a really quite catastrophic, stratospheric rise. That was the big story, and they even won a candidate, won a councillor last Thursday in central Scotland, and the Labour vote collapsed by 20%. And I can't remember what the reform percentage was, but the SNP vote collapsed, as did the Labour vote, and so that was remarkable. If that can be mirrored, if that's the word, repeated next May. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, this election is right up in the sky, Alistair. You know, if you were to say that, you know, even if you're Professor John Curtis sitting in a university office somewhere, I don't think you can properly predict the way this election's going to go. I just think it's so fractured now. And of course, what a fantastic breeding ground! What a petri dish for reform to come together, get stronger, and grow and grow and grow. It's the perfect environment for a party like Reform at this point in time. It's absolutely, you know, you won't get any better a situation for Reform to come as a party that's previously not had anybody elected in Scotland, minus, you know, a defection. What is 2021, 2022, when Michelle Ballantyne defected over to Reform. You've not had any representation before, and with, you know, these people getting in, we hope that they're great voices for change. Of course, you know, Reform's message resonates with a lot, I'm sure, with your viewers, with my sentiments personally. You know, the anti-immigration stances that we've seen all these flashpoints across the UK, and moreover in Scotland, you've got the place like Falkirk, where you brought up earlier in the show, where we've got this hotel, and you know, when you watched, and you know, I watched that BBC, I think it was like a Panorama or BBC Disclosure or someone on Falkirk, and you know, when they ask the SNP politicians about it, they ask the SNP politicians, you know, will there be a financial impact to this hotel for the people, the residents in Falkirk? Will there be a financial impact because of this hotel? And the SNP politicians will say, absolutely not. Of course there won't be a financial impact, even though that's not even the argument, Alistair. The argument is not about finance, it's not about economics, it's about safety and security of the people that live in Falkirk, safety and security of the people that live in any sort of radius to these migrant hotels. They're like crime centres. Wherever you put them up, you're going to get increased crime. Wherever you put them up, Alistair, it's like a beacon for crime. You know,
it's a good point. I was reading a national article which I finally got the stomach to suffer today, although I noticed it's from way back in August when I cut it out. And this person's going, oh, there's no evidence that asylum seekers are more likely to commit violent crime than any other segment of the population. And he says it's because there's no evidence because he doesn't find any particular peer-reviewed studies on the matter. And he might be correct in the sense that there are very few studies on that, because the government actually does do its darndest to kind of deep six those matters. But it occurred to me that even if you found that the refugees were committing crime at the same percentage, at the same rate as the indigenous population, that's no excuse for them to be here. If they weren't here, they wouldn't be committing crimes at all. Okay. And so that sort of attempt to apologize for the asylum seekers is just farcical, really. I mean, just don't have them here and there won't be any crime at all from them.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that Reform are taking up the mantle of anti-immigration. Scotland doesn't deserve to have these hotels. The UK doesn't deserve to have these hotels. And, you know, root and branch, they need to be taken away. And the people that are in them need to be sent back home over the course of maybe a 6-month period. They're put elsewhere, and then they're shipped off home. And again, you know, it's not even coming from a racist place, Alistair. This is coming from a very pragmatic place where, you know, you're one of 40 migrants, you know, rolling the dice on a dinghy, trying to reach Dover. You get processed in Dover, you get taken away, you get put on a bus, and you're thinking, oh, finally I've reached the promised land of London, of Manchester, of Liverpool, or you know these huge economic centres. And then you get put on a bus and you end up in Falkirk, or you end up in Aberdeen, or you end up in Greenock, or just outside Edinburgh. And you know, it's not good for the people that live in the area. It's not good for the migrants that are seeking a better life to be placed in these areas. It's not great for anyone apart from the people who are putting them there, and the people make money.
Yes,
off facilitating these things. So all your facility management companies, your Sodexos, you know, they're making absolute fortunes, right? Literally just, you know, and see if you are a hotelier in Aberdeen or Greenock, you know, where once that you had a bustling trade, you had rooms full year round, and now because of the COVID era, because of, you know, the financial situation where they're now, the economic situation, this cost of lockdown crisis that we're still enduring, the hotelier can't really be blamed for saying, well, I'm going to make some money here finally. I'm just going to sign my hotel over to Sodexo and they can take the management of it, and I'll just take a check every month. So, you know, you've got people by the short and curlies, Alistair, all up and down the country, where everyone is scratching and clawing to make a living, to look after their family, when the cost of everything right now is absolutely astronomical. And to see that the election in Scotland this year, I think the next 6 months, you'll see everyone of every party talk about the price of things. What their solutions will be, we're yet to find out. But you know, everyone is missing a trick if they don't talk about the cost of living crisis now. It's just, you know, for a family shop, a family of four, you're talking £300 to £400 a week in food, and it just becomes outrageous. You know, this is why I've not been on camera, because I've been working 60, 70-hour weeks. You know, it's one of these things where you just have to do what you got to do. You're in the trenches, and you just have to keep bringing the money in. There's nothing else for it. Otherwise, your children don't get fed. and they don't get the nice things that you think they deserve. So,
Yes.
This whole election, when it comes in 6 months, I don't know where it's going to go, Alistair. I really don't. I can see Reform making gigantic gains, absolutely gigantic gains. And, I messaged the Scottish organiser just a week ago saying, when the Greens are attacking you, when the Tories are attacking you, when the SNP are attacking you, when the Lib Dems are attacking you, when Labour are attacking you, you are winning. You're absolutely winning, and just keep on course and stay the course, and you will win a giant amount of seats. I think when you look at the pros and cons of a Reform vote, it's a huge amount in the pro column. But when you look at all these other parties, I mean, Labour, you can't really in good conscience ask anybody to vote Labour. My views on the SNP. They're scandal-ridden, useless. I'm trying to think of other ways to describe them, but it's like they're purposely useless. They do nothing. They obscure all the facts. They want to make everything secret. We've still got Nicola Sturgeon prancing around. Has Murrell been charged with embezzlement? Is he going to jail? Did Nicola know anything? We've got this crazy story up in Dundee recently. And if anybody watching this is of the inclination to vote for the SNP, I'll divert your attention across to America for a second, where we've got this family, the Hunter, the Biden family, right? And we in Scotland, we like to do things better. We like to take a concept, fashion it into something a bit better, and reintroduce it to the world. And we've done that with Hunter Biden, Alistair. We've done that because move over Hunter Biden, Scotland has got a bigger degenerate. Scotland, and of course, it comes from the inbred Humza family line, where you've got Ramsay El Nakla, right? Ramsay El Nakla, brother-in-law to the ex-First Minister, Humza Yousaf, and the brother to Nadia El Nakla, who is now the Deputy Lord Provost of Dundee, right? So this Ramsay El Nakla was implicated in the death of a man who was terrified enough to jump at a 3 or 4 story window in Dundee. And recently the court documents have showed us that he was taken on a given day up to £800 in crack cocaine in a single day, Alistair. So that's what I'm saying. I move over Hunter Biden. We've got better. We've got the best degenerate families here. It's like Shameless, but we can do it way better. And all this while, Nadia El Nakwa was the drugs spokesman for Dundee City Council. You've got Humza Yousaf trying to backtrack on all this, drug consumption rooms, talking about the drug crisis, the suicide epidemic, the overdose epidemic, whereas brother-in-law is taking £800 a day in crack cocaine, and his sister is up there in Dundee City Council espousing the dangers of drugs.
Yes, it's certainly a confused message there, to say the very least. Indeed. Well, and Dundee, of course, has got its own issues as well with the asylum hotels and things like that, which are there. But the other thing that you were quite big on this year was, I noticed on your Twitter anyway, was the Sandy Peggy thing, and that seems to have come to a kind of good conclusion anyway. I mean, that was, we'll just summarize the case there just in a couple of minutes. But you were certainly pushing out a lot of that.
Again, you know, it feels like it's a lifetime coming for this Sandy Peggy story. You know, when I first started in politics, you know, I was, you know, I wanted to construct this message to tackle the transgender thing, the transgender cult, the transgender, you know, fad. I wanted to combat that, so I made a speech called "Ending the Argument," which it sits on Twitter to this day. You know, thousands of likes, and yet it's the only video that, to my knowledge, that hasn't got a view count on it. Anyway, bear that in mind. I was told, Niall, don't burn a book. Don't do it. It'll be the end of you.
Yeah, the book burning video. I remember that one.
So that was back in 2021, Alistair, where I put this video, and we're 4 years on, and how many people have been caught up in this trans cult, who knows? But anyway, the latest person that's been brought up in it, you know, that's going through the mill, and there's been a lot of people in Scotland that sort of fall foul of this, you know, fake reality nonsense. And one of them was a nurse in Kirkcaldy's Victoria Hospital. And the Victoria Hospital, you know, it's got its problems. If you know the area of Kirkcaldy, you know, there's loads of addicts in Kirkcaldy, you know, probably quite an elderly population. But this nurse has been, I think it was 20 or 30 years service in the NHS. And over the 20 or 30 year service, I think the first 25, she wouldn't have had any issues with this trans stuff at all, because it just wasn't in the culture at that point. You know, it wasn't injected into our daily lives as if we needed it. But as soon as she's this, I don't even know how to describe this fakery, but when you're putting it into practical situations like health. And this is, you know, you look at health is supposed to be one of these things where it's in a vacuum. You know, your opinion doesn't matter. The science matters. Your thoughts don't matter at all. It's only the science that matters when it comes to people's health. And yet they've managed to crowbar in this fake transgender stuff, this a man can become a woman at any time. All he needs to do is say so. And what happened was this nurse has been working a shift late on, and this male doctor has entered the changing rooms, and she's left. She said, "No, I don't want you in my changing rooms. Thank you very much." And what happens? Well, we get a whole litany of complaints coming about this nurse. We get you know, a tribunal, where this tribunal is raked through all the media, and then you've got this conclusion now, where I think the conclusion was that she wasn't dismissed. I think there's still something going on with it. Like, there's an appeal going on, where I don't think she's been fairly acquitted for this thing. So Sandy Peggy has to go on once again, even though anyone in the right mind knows that this situation doesn't need to have happened. We've wasted countless hundreds of thousands of pounds on the whole legal rigmarole of sorting a tribunal, putting judges up, the Scottish government hiring silks from London to come up and defend the indefensible, which is, you know, you can't make women change alongside men. It's just an impossibility. And that's what the Scottish government are demanding what happens here. So, of course, you know, reading through the tea leaves, you know, you don't need to be a soothsayer to understand that this woman, this nurse, Sandy Peggy, will be paid out in the high hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds, for a wrongful dismissal. Of course, it'll come at your pocket, Alistair. It will come at my pocket because we are the taxpayer. We have done this.
Yes,
we have done this. This poor nurse has been raked over the coals because he has. Why is it because he has? Because we, as a collective Scottish society, have continued to put in the SNP year after year, time after time.
It's a good point. We can't keep voting like turkeys for Christmas. And talking about the costs of things here, Room Runner says the other gripe I have with the SNP, and that's the free bus pass scheme for every 5 to 21-year-old in Scotland, including those who have been 6 months or more in the country. Indeed, and then he goes on and says, meanwhile, certain disabled people don't get to qualify for it, and my useless local MP, Doris, that's SNP, I believe, didn't even entertain my issue when I wrote and met him. Well, it doesn't surprise me. He's just an SNP loyalist, that chap. And how he ever became an SNP MSP, who knows?
Well, I mean,
who knows? Well, I know how, because people just turkeys voting for Christmas, unfortunately.
Every policy the SNP come out with is all about attaining and try to maintain the votes that they currently have. And of course, they're geared towards the younger demographic because nobody, anybody with, a scintilla of wisdom and intellect and time on this earth more than anything will say, thank you, SNP, but no thank you. Whereas the younger ones, they've not been scammed enough. They don't know what a scam looks like. So, of course, they are grabbing in the SNP's message, word for word. I know we've only got a couple minutes left, but if we go back to the reform for a second here, and I don't really know what I would say to your audience, Alistair, other than if you can't see it, if you don't see the importance of the voting reform this time round, then I don't think you ever will. I think there's, like I said, such a fertile breeding ground for reform at the moment. They are promising you things that everyone should be taking up immediately, like these migrant hotels need to go. Why do they need to go? Because our people deserve safety and protection. Our armed forces, the veterans need to be taken care of above and beyond anybody else that we're bringing in. Reform are offering something completely different. And again, what I thought the reform is it's not full of working class people, but it's gaining working class people. And I think the working class vote, even though you've got loads of Tory defectors, loads of the most recent one was Malcolm Offord. I'm not sure if he's putting people on to reform or putting them off. But it's good that people are coming on board anyway. I don't see, you'll see people saying like, oh, the working class, they're going to vote for a Lord or whatever. If he's speaking their language, absolutely they will. So, yeah, again, you can't in good conscience, ask people to vote for Labour, even if it's in a tactical sense. And I've been in a few Twitter battles with people who think that, their number one objective is getting the SNP out rather than sort of moving the conversation forward and getting a better class of people in Holyrood that don't make it look like a circus every week, Alistair. Because that's what, Holyrood has just been used as a sort of daycare centre for the weak-willed and the mentally incapable. Yeah.
That's one way of putting it, certainly. Look, it's been good. I know you mentioned your wee boy that you've had this year, but I believe you've got another child forthcoming just basically around the new year, if not in the next few days.
I wasn't going to tell anybody that, but yes, we're expecting another baby, and it'll probably be within the next week. It could even be the new Messiah being born on Christmas Day. Who knows, Alistair? But yes, we're expecting another wee ginger sproglet anytime soon. And I did add a wee picture of me and my son because just recently we took out the Christmas light switch on. But look at his wee, and this, if there's 200 plus people watching now, this is what we're doing it for. It's not for me. It's not for Alistair. It's for the next generation of people that are coming along. Do you want them to have the same and or better opportunities than you did? Of course you do. So now's the time to start thinking about planting trees so that you're creating shade that you're not going to be under, but the future generations. Now's the time to plant the trees. Otherwise, we're going to have more of this.
Oh gosh,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you think, and this, just to shock your viewers again, but this is right off a main road, and it's the entrance to a play park.
Yeah. Oh, it's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all.
It's just unbelievable.
And you've done very well this year to highlight that. And on behalf of everybody, I'd just like to thank you for doing that as well. And you were a bit of a stranger to us this year because you're so busy, and I'm sure you're going to be awfully busy next year as well. But when it's possible, we'll certainly get you back on the show. And anybody that wants to keep up to date with your latest thoughts, please do follow Niall on X. He's at x.com/Niall Fraser 8. That's NIALLFRASER numeral 8. And you can hear words of wisdom whenever Niall gets a chance to broadcast them.
Again, it's the time commitment these days, Alistair. I used to do a show, and everyone asking me like, when's the Niall Fraser show coming back? Where is it? I'm desperate to bring it back, folk, but I've just not got the time. I wish I could do it full time, but again, it's just the commitment. And thank you, Matthew. It is fantastic news. Just before I do leave, I know you're running this Christmas crowdfunder, and I just wanted to sort of let your audience to just the fantastic work that you've been doing over the years, because even though I can't physically sort of participate in the content creation as much as I used to these days, I still watch it, and for what you've been doing, the most recent one, catching out Stand Up to Racism in a complete lie, it's unbelievable. But moreover, I think the most important work that you do, along with your great activism, is you count the marches. And people might think this is a very silly thing, but when you've got all under one banner, all under one brain cell, when they're saying, "Oh, we've got 100,000 people at a march," and you see the headlines the next day, with 100,000 people at a march for pro-independence, and then you look at your video, and you've counted every single one of the marchers, and it's about 5,000 people. This is very, very, very serious, like perception altering news stories that Scotland's been sort of subjected to by all the tendrils of the Scottish government and all the tendrils of the SNP and all their minions, either flying monkeys, are trying to confuse the perception of Scotland and to try to make it look as if more people support independence than actual numbers.
Well, that's so true. It's perception altering, as you say, and it's not. It's even done by the officially sanctioned SNP marching wing that's called Believe in Scotland.
I thought you were going to say the Goebbels wing there.
Yeah, and last year let me just see. Yeah, no, 2 years ago, they had a march in Edinburgh, and they couldn't make up their mind whether it was 25,000 on it or whether it was 10,000 on it.
Right.
And we filmed them and counted them, and it was 3,989. So it was basically 4,000 of them. Not 10,000, not 25,000, 4,000.
They couldn't make their mind up as to what number they could get away with.
That's right. But an interesting thing is that the next year they had a march in Glasgow. In 2024, they had a march in Glasgow. And they were much more cautious about their figures. They said 2,000. And in fact, they were basically honest about it, because we counted them at 1,743. So maybe they learned their lesson and like, oh, we can't just do that anymore. We can't just make up stuff. But what they are good at doing is crowdfunding. £80,000 target for Believe in Scotland fundraiser. And that's from the National in October. And I checked in on this crowdfunder, and I'm sorry to say, not only did it make 80,000, it's currently sitting at £108,000 that people have given to these kind of numpties, basically. £108,000, mate. We're asking for 5,000 in our Christmas crowdfunder, which people can see at crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2026. And that's what we're up against. We are up against that kind of money. And as far as that kind of money is concerned, we can't really compete with that. I'm not sure unionism can even compete with that kind of money.
But what we can
do is, let's hear it. What we can do.
Well, I think for every fiver they spend, any pound that you spend is way more valuable. Just because I think that, the money that's going to a force for good is way better spent than anything that could possibly imagined at the Believe in Scotland, the marching wing. So if you do feel inclined, there's no better place to put your money in terms of a political pressure group than a force for good. Just because they're constantly out there, constantly at the marches, constantly promoting, all the protests that you should be at, and highlighting everything. The street stalls as well.
Street stalls. We've had 13 street stalls this year, which has been very good, and that's one of them there. That was back in July, I think it was. So we're flying the flag on the street, as it were, and we try to get one a month if we can. So it's 12. Sometimes it's 2. Some months it might be 2. So we're constantly busy and constantly doing stuff, and it's needed. It's needed, and keeping the British end up. Bella Caledonia says you should have a march. Well, we've got better things to do, really. Actually, Mr. Bella Caledonia, he writes for the National. That guy. Glad to see him watching.
Of course, he's watching. Where else would his eyes be? On a Wednesday night, a week for Christmas. I mean, of course, they're watching you, Alistair, because they're looking for their ideas. They're looking at ways to avoid being counted so they can inflate the numbers. It's hilarious. I really have enjoyed this year. It's been a really fast year, though, Alistair, isn't it? But I mean, Scottish politics is going to go into overdrive in the new year. It's going to really hit new levels of mania. Again, what we'll see in the new year, all the current parties in Holyrood will be pointing their guns at the reform parties, the insurgent commandos sitting there, they're squirreling away and planning in secrecy at the moment. And I'm sure they're going to make a huge, giant showing at the next election. And it's just, anything can happen, I think. If they really want, I think they could probably get up to 3 people on every list. But then there's this sort of stigma going about the now that they can't win any constituencies. Whereas I think in some places they could possibly win some constituencies, given a great campaign. So,
oh yeah, it's going to
this,
be completely different next year, and reform is not going to be hindered by money. In fact,
quite
like
the
a lump
opposite.
it, it's going to probably be the most. It's probably going to spend more than any other party. Probably spend more than the SNP, because you look at the people, they got a massive donation, like 9 million or something. Or was it? Or I'm exaggerating that, but somebody like dropped a huge amount of money into them, and they just. So I mean, money is simply not an issue for reform. But of course, that can be a bad thing as well if the person exercises undue influence. I mean, why is he giving all that kind of money to them? He's not going to. He's not doing it for like the goodness of his health, right? He must want something. Haven't looked into it, so I can't tell you what that was.
I mean, I will issue a slight warning as well, that reform can really sort of like take on too many Tory defectors. They can even take on a lot of Labour defectors, and I think they need to start saying, "Whoa, we've had enough." So we don't want a Reform Party full of the same faces that have failed Scottish politics for the last 20 years.
That's a big worry,
right?
actually. That's a big concern.
Right. So the main thing for me is sort of, you know, I'm playing a very careful game, but I'm pointing out the insecurities that people are having in reform, try to guide them in the right direction, sort of hone their messaging a wee bit, and bring them into a sort of a new year that's, again, such a perfect petri dish in order to grow, thrive, and infect Scottish politics with enthusiasm again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's so drear, so horrendously miserable, you know, a time up here, and it's not just the weather, it's the politics.
That's right. Everybody thinks like this Bella Caledonia guy. If you wade through his,
well, how about shutting down all the
8,000 word essay on, you know, why Labour are not far left enough or something like that. If you wade through that, as I do, because I need to know what these guys are thinking. But what you find is like the whole of the Scottish political class and the media class, which is extremely incestuous. They all think basically the same. And the good thing about reform, if we can get new people in, not just like not just the old political class that's defected, but if we can get younger people especially in with new ideas that can just overturn the politics that has led to the status and the decline, not just of Scotland, but of the United Kingdom as well. And that means overthrowing all sorts of things that we have hitherto come to expect are just part of the structure, such as all these international so-called conventions that we're signed up on. You know, I'm big that we have to get out the UN Refugee Convention. That was Britain joined in 1954, before commercial jet aircraft, for crying out loud. How on earth is something like that still fit for purpose? Of course it's not. And so you have to get out of that. You set up your own temporary asylum program, and you say that if anybody comes in on the back of a lorry or anybody comes in across the channel in a dinghy, you simply cannot claim asylum in that way. And if you do that, you're breaking our law of entry and you will go to prison. And people say, oh, why should we have to pay for them in prison? I assure you, once we bring in that law, there'll be very, very few people will even need to jail, because the traffic will just dry up. Nobody's wanting to go to prison. So that's the solution that we've always had. That's what the solution we should have implemented back in 2018. You say that to somebody like the Bella Caledonia guy, you'll have an absolute conniption fit. You'd have a conniption fit, you know.
Well, again,
he couldn't compute that. He couldn't compute that.
We can't name a policy. It's been drawn up.
Just before you try to say you're not speaking for reform, I'm not speaking for reform, so we can't speak for reform. Just so he knows that. But go ahead, Niall.
Well, again, through my ear to the ground, the reform policies are being drawn up, and they're taking time to get them right. So how about you just wait and be patient, and you'll get your policies. At the moment, they're polling at a huge percentage without any sort of. It's only a sort of a quasi thought of what the policies could possibly be. It's you know it's like it's a belief system that they're going to be the sort of anti-immigration party. They're going to extract these hotels from the land and get other people out. And again, heralding
That's a good enough policy for me. I mean,
safety, and protection, and community spirit once again.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't need to be able to dot every I, cross every T, in order to just say this is what we're aiming for. And of course, as I pointed out in my bestseller here, Protect Our Country, Policies to Stop Mass Immigration, which is available from Amazon by searching for Protect Our Country, I detail everything I've talked about and the actual answer to how to put Britain back on the road again. And it can all be done perfectly fairly, perfectly legally, perfectly properly, perfectly kindly as well. You know, there's no anything in there that wouldn't pass muster. You know, it's perfectly good policies. It's just we need to start talking about it, because we want to sort this out, because your Bella Caledonia guys, they just want open borders. They're just globalists. You know, they believe in the global international system, and they don't really support the concept of distinct nations in the first place.
Oh, it's just,
but we do. You know, we are for Scotland.
It flies in the face of the name of the party that it supports, the Scottish Nationalists. What is if you land 30 people from Africa in Scotland, are they Scottish now, Bellica? Are they new Scots? I mean, you'll be able to tell me, Alistair, but what voting rights have people got if they're housed in Scotland on migrant hotels or on
well, asylum seekers don't have voting rights, but once you're legally resident, that is, once you become a refugee, then believe it or not, in Scotland at devolved elections, you will be able to vote. But you have to become a refugee. You know, you have to have your asylum claim accepted, and you can then vote. However, anybody else who comes across legally on any kind of visa, work or study visa, provided they are in the country legally and resident someplace in Scotland, they can also vote. So you could just be fresh off the plane, here for 3 years doing a job, and you're going back after 3 years. During that 3-year period, you are able to decide the future of the country that you have no vested interest, no long-term vested interest in. So long as you're legally resident in Scotland, you can vote at these devolved elections. It's an absolute scandal. It was brought in April 2020 by the Greens and the SNP and the useless Labour and the useless Lib Dems, all going, oh, if you're paying taxes, you should get the vote. No. You only should get the vote if you're a British citizen. Otherwise, citizenship means nothing. Okay? You don't have to be paying taxes. As long as you're a British citizen, 18 and older or 16 and older, you should get the vote. But not if you're not a British citizen. There should be no votes for you. And we devote 2 chapters in this book about that, and we explain how all this nonsense came about. And it just has to go. All that has to go. So new conversations need to be brought in. And your national, your Scottish, the people who write for the Scottish National newspaper, like they'll just not be able to compute that, and they'll get angry, you know, and they'll just see their world falling apart. But it's high time their world fell apart, because their world is what's responsible for the situation we're in at the moment. Their ideas.
It won't be pretty when they fall apart, but I'm sure it's not far from happening. Although I remember just a few years ago, the police raiding SNP HQ, the police raiding Nicola Sturgeon's house, the police erecting a big, huge blue tent right on Sturgeon's doorstep, and yet here we have still got the SNP in power.
I'm afraid I don't really know what you mean there. Do you know what he means?
You don't want distinct nations and be terrible nationalists. No, they don't know who they are. The Scottish nationalists anyway. I just don't think they don't understand what they're voting for. I think they're voting against Westminster rule. That's all it is. Genuine question for you chaps. Aren't you afraid that a Farage government at Westminster will turbocharge the end of the UK? No, I'm not. In fact, aren't you afraid that it's going to absolutely destroy the independence debate once and for all? Once people get in and they find out how good it'll be, I'm sure this is what everyone is hoping for at SNPHQ, and that's why the attack lines have been Farage and his racism, and Labour have sort of come on the back of it. Oh, Farage, you can't be saying this about that. Whereas people are just sick and tired of being told what they can and can't say. Everything is just, it's no carrying water anymore.
Yeah, I would add to that. That might be a risk if reform was huge in England, but in Scotland it had no support whatsoever. But when you're looking at a situation where possibly reform could be the second biggest party in Scotland, then clearly there's massive support in Scotland and in England and in Wales as well. So as long as the support is pretty well throughout Great Britain, then it's not going to cause any big problems for the union. I can't see how, but I do follow these guys saying that that they're hoping that Farage will somehow. I mean, there is a danger that if Farage was to launch some, and his, like the Richard Ticeys and the people like that who are very much kind of like uber capitalists, if they were to launch some kind of mass austerity and all that kind of stuff, then that could cause problems. But that would cause problems for them in England as well.
The more the better question for the Caledonia guy is, the problem for me, the fear that I have, and I'm being genuine here, is that reform, they do well in Scotland, they do well right across England, they do well across the UK, they get in a government and they fuck it all up, right? For lack of a better phrase. And then it sets back the remigration, it sets back the anti-immigration sentiment for another 5 years, maybe 10 years. And people are like, no, we're done with it entirely. So that's, if you're wanting, genuineness, then there it is.
Yeah. Well, look, I'd love to speak all night, but I think the last 20 minutes there was really quite good. Thanks to the Bella Caledonia guy for dropping in. Maybe you should drop in more often if you want to understand true unionism, true British patriotism. A Force for Good is the place for you. And anybody who wants to support us through the first 6 months of next year, please go to our crowdfunder, crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2026. We're not quite the £108,000 that Believe in Scotland, the marching wing of the SNP, has been able to raise, but we are hoping for a modest sum between 0 and 5,000. That would be fantastic. That would get us through 6 months of getting rid of the SNP. That's why we're calling it "Help Us Remove the SNP in 2026," because we can do our bit. We can do our bit to keep the British end up, as they say. Okay, going to say bye to you, Niall. All the very best to you. Have a great Christmas. with your family. Have a lovely new year. And God bless your new baby when it comes on the way.
Thank you very much. It's been great to sort of break the ducks back and come on to media again. And thank you very much for letting me do that. Other than that, thank everyone for the comments, but I shall see you in the near future. I do plan on doing a wee Christmas roundup of my own. I'll bring back the Niall Fraser show like a phoenix from the ashes just for one Christmas show. And we'll see what we can do, but we'll have a lot of fun with that.
It's like the Jerry Lewis show in America. He used to just come back like once a year, but you want to be doing that more often. That's for sure. Okay, good night now.
Good night.